And so why is litigation, becoming such an interesting asset class? Well, it is completely uncorrelated to capital markets. The other one is it's actually extremely interesting from a cash flow perspective. Wow, it's great to be here. First of all, thank you to Gen2 and the Asset Rush crowd for having me. I can't remember the last time I was here, but it was quite some time and in a very different condition. So let me tell you a little bit about what we do. So at Syz Capital, we focus on alternative investments. We definitely believe, as some of the individuals here know, and my predecessor said, we think this is a great diversification to any portfolio in terms of asset class. But today, as the rush into alternatives and especially private markets has become, bigger and bigger, we're seeing over 1 trillion over the last year alone being invested in the space. We try and go beyond and look for things which are probably more niche. And our motto at Syz Capital is to look for investments which are resilient or as much as possible uncorrelated to macroeconomic risk or market cyclicality. So where do we actually find these hidden gems? So I hope I'm going to spark your interest with what we're doing. So as I said, finding hidden gems is quite difficult. The reality as markets become bigger and bigger, pricing or risk rewards go down. I think you've seen that with a number of asset classes. And this is particularly where we actually focus on and sets us apart. We do a lot of research and try to be innovative when it comes to what type of underlying asset classes we want to invest in and provide resiliency to those investments. We always invest first. That's our motto. We would never either go for a strategy where we won't have a lot of our own capital at risk, so there's full alignment of interest. And we really offer this unique access. What is really hard is, even if you find out a unique strategy, the tough part is then, accessing it, but also investing it. How do you structure it? And that's particularly where I think, people like Gen2 come into play and can make it a lot easier for you guys. So here we have a little graph in terms of one of the strategies I hope will spark your interest. You see a lot of asset classes here. This is correlated to the actually S&P, so correlation to equity type risk. And we try to find strategies, amongst others, litigation financing. I'm going to go into that in a second, which provides close to no correlation to, I would say, what we call capital market risk, where most of our assets are actually invested in. So what is litigation financing? I'm sure all of you here have witnessed what litigation is about, or you had a claim or a claimant or somebody who's not happy about a situation. Somebody stole an IP right, or you want to sue your employer for whatever reason. We're seeing that more and more, and this is a nascent emerging asset class which has emerged in the Anglo-Saxon world, mainly in the UK, Australia, as well as the US. I mean, you see all these stories about people suing other people, etc. That's true, but what's interesting now is that a lot of people are trying to outsource the cost of litigating. As you know, litigation can be extremely expensive. A lawyer make a lot of fees out of it. But there's now actually a way where you can actually finance a certain claim, go to the lawyers, and they will take a portion of the actual proceeds in case you win. Here I actually have a little example to illustrate what I just said. I'm all sure you're familiar with a Wirecard class action suit where EY is being sued. So the idea is that you actually get a budget with specialist litigators, which you agree on, and then take a percentage of the actual proceeds, or at least a minimum of your cost recovery. So most of the time, you want to ensure that whatever the outcome of the case may be, you get at least 3 times your money, or a certain percentage of the actual claims. And so why is litigation, becoming such an interesting asset class? Well, for all the reasons I mentioned before. One is it is completely uncorrelated to capital markets. There's absolutely zero correlation to any other asset classes, which you've seen in the nice pie chart right before. You have, of course, other risks, but you're more idiosyncratic and definitely not correlated to any of the other assets you might hold in a portfolio. And the other one is it's actually extremely interesting from a cash flow perspective. So even very big firms, think of Apple, who will sue Samsung for an IP right. Why would they actually go and get a third party to litigate rather than paying for their own lawyers? Because it's an actually off-balance sheet transaction. And you've seen it before. You have a big blue chip company who's trying to litigate, the first thing will happen, especially if it's listed, the stock price will take a hit because you actually don't know what the outcome is. And the problem is, even in an event where they might win, the proceeds will actually be seen as an external event, will not go through the P&L, and therefore is not really accretive for any large company. So you're seeing more and more of these companies even outsourcing their cases, and that's why we see this asset class actually really grow. We like it a lot. We think it has its place in any portfolio. For a lot of people, investors, it's still an enigma, but I all invite you to come and visit us, learn more about the asset class, and I hope I sparked your interest with this nation and emerging investment opportunity. Thank you all.